Hey guys, Night Raid Gaming here, and I thought I'd give you my impressions of Darktide, which is coming out this week on the verge of release. In the 41st millennium, there are only mechanics that aren't completely hashed out yet, but it's almost there. So, Darktide, basically, I would say, in terms of the content, in terms of the graphics and the music and, the level design and how things look, all of that, that's all done. But I think the only problem that Darktide has is the mechanics of the game kind of feel 80% finished. It's not quite there, doesn't 100% make sense. I think what they tried to do is make this game simpler than Vermintide II, to kind of make it a little easier, maybe give it some more appeal to people who haven't played 40K or haven't played Vermintide. But at the same time, they kind of shot themselves in the foot because kind of limits what they can use to get you to play missions. Not everything doesn't just fit quite right. They ported over grimoires and scriptures, which is kind of like the grimoires in Vermintide 2, where if you carry them to the end of the mission, you get more rewards. It does make the mission more difficult, and that's here in Darktide, but the only reward you get out of it is more money. And money is nice, but not really that big of a deal. This game seems to want you to go to the NPC store where there's some loot to buy. It's just kind of like randomly generated. And then you spend your money there and you can kind of pick your rewards rather than kind of getting these loot crates. Loot crates are out of the game. It's all about money and going to the NPC merchant. There are some cosmetic things you can buy. You can customize your character as they're showing off here. And you can get armor pieces and, hats and whatever. And those are very expensive. Wasn't a big variety of those, and they do cost a ton of money, but basically the only reward the game has to give you is money. The more difficult the mission is, the more money you get. Not significantly a big deal, and I'm going to stop at this mission screen here. And so you can see that it does look like, wow, there's a whole bunch of missions to pick from, but that's kind of an illusion here because these three missions right here are all the same one, only the difficulty is different. These three are the same, right? If they have the same picture, it's the same mission, and these are the same missions. Even though it looks like, first glance, wow, there's a lot of missions, there's really only 4 to pick from, even from here. These missions will rotate out on a timer. I don't know why they did that. Missions seem to be around for a few hours, so it's kind of weird, or maybe it's like an hour-ish, but they're around for a while. By the time you finish a mission, which is going to take you anywhere between 30 and 60 minutes, obviously if you die, it's going to end a lot quicker, but missions are long, so you're going to have to be sitting at your computer. It's not a game where you can just kind of pause it and walk away. You need to dedicate some chunks of time to play this game. The missions are fun, but they are somewhat repetitive. They kind of have the same objectives. You need to disrupt the Nurgle rot, and there's a couple missions like that, but plays out the same. The map layouts are different, and the scenery is different, but you're doing the same thing. There's a mission where you have to fight a boss at the end, assassinate the NPC or whatever. Those kind of play out the same way. Again, the route and stage you take to get there is different. But you can see they kind of recycled a lot of that. I don't expect that to be a big difference from release. They're probably going to add 3 or 4 more new types that are also going to get repeated and recycled. It's not bad, but this is a game where you're going to have to replay the same maps over and over and over again. The variety of the game comes from being able to beat the map that you've beat before in a harder difficulty. And the difficulty ramps up really, really quickly. 5 is obnoxious, and if they have these little yellow arrows that are pointing up, these signify endless hordes. So it's like you get even more monsters than normal. And the game has no problem dropping 3-4 elites on you all at the same time. The nice thing about the game, I will say, is there is a good variety of enemies. There's a lot of different special units. There's different zombies and kind of regular guys, soldiers and chaos cultist guards who are going to shoot at you and hit you with their hatchets. And they have like different levels of health. But there's a lot of elite units that are all very obnoxious. There's snipers who will snipe you and headshot you from across the map. Guys who throw incendiary grenades. There's flamethrower guys who will rush you and tackle you. There are giant elite monsters. There's 2 or 3 different ones. There's Ogrins that have shields and ton of health, Ogrins with autoguns. So there's a good variety of enemies. And in the high difficulties and in the Endless Horde, the game has no problem dropping 4 or 5 of them all at the same time. If you're a Vermintide II veteran, and you're used to playing the higher difficulties in that game, you'll feel right at home. I do feel that Darktide is a little easier than Vermintide. Having guns makes a big difference. You do need to be smart with ammo. You're going to be constantly desperate for ammo. You're going to be always searching for the next ammo box that are in the crates that are looted around the map. And, your other teammates are going to want some ammo too. So here are the 4 classes of the game. You have the Veteran Sharpshooter, the Skullbreaker, the Preacher, and the Psyker. Psyker is kind of like the Wizard class. Seems to be pretty fun. People seem to like him. Not the same as the Fire Mage in Vermintide, but it's that kind of role where you're hanging back, you're shooting spells, you're blowing people's heads up, and you're going to see their blue laser magic flying all over the place. Preacher is kind of like the melee berserker character and has a flamethrower, which is super handy. The Ogren, I'd say, is by far the most different class. They're huge, big guy who can charge and knock over enemies. It definitely feels like a different game when an Ogren's in your party, especially if you have 2 or, God forbid, 3 Ogrens. They're giant targets, and it's hard to actually shoot the enemy sometimes because they're so big that your bullets will like just be hitting them in the back and not hitting the enemy. So coordination is key, but the Ogren is nice because they can block doors and block hallways and tank really well. So it's fun to play a big monster kind of dude, and you always love having a good Ogren on your team. Veteran Sharpshooter is probably the most basic, and I would say by far the most popular class. I feel like 50% of the player base is playing Veteran Sharpshooter, and the other 50% is kind of divided among these 3 classes. Veteran Sharpshooter, you get a lot of extra ammo. He's basically the shooty guy. So he's fine. Not too exciting. Still a fun class. You get a good range of weapons. All these classes have different weapons, and the weapons feel different. I'm playing a Sharpshooter myself, so I have a few options. Like, I just unlocked the Bolter, which doesn't have that much ammo, but does massive damage. There's pistols. I have some las guns, one that shoots very slowly but does a lot more damage. One that shoots a lot faster, doesn't do that much damage. And I kind of got like a weird medium range rifle that shoots like a 3-fire laser burst. And it's kind of somewhere in between a close range, kind of medium range weapon. It's interesting. It's not for me, but you're bound to find a weapon that you like. And that's the weapon that you're going to probably be using for most of the game. The weapons do have different stats, and there is loot, different qualities and rarities to the items. I think they tried to simplify the game by not giving you all the numbers. They're just kind of like bars, like damage, accuracy, penetration. And there's a bar, and the higher the bar, the better that stat is. It's kind of hard to tell exactly when you're comparing 2 guns which one is better than the others, because you're just kind of looking at bars and not really sure exactly what those things mean. It's not that clear. So I know they tried to make the game easier, like quicker to get, but I think it just makes things more confusing. Like I said, this game doesn't have much to give you outside of gold, basically. That's all you're going to be getting. Secondary objectives and special conditions, stuff like Endless Hordes and the Grimoires. But pretty much, it only has gold to give you, which I do think kind of hurts the game a little bit. You're going to be using that to shop at the store to get your prizes. And there is like a big overall weapon rating. that's kind of how I choose to buy what I buy. So if I like the infantry las gun, I'm just buying whatever gun has the biggest weapon rating. So it's something like 200, and if the merchant has one that says 220, okay, that's the one I buy. I don't spend too much time trying to figure out what the stats really are. It doesn't seem to matter, just big number better. And that's carrying me through the game so far. Some of these weapons will have extra traits like 5% extra damage to armored enemies or 10% extra damage in the back. They're nice little bonuses, but nothing too crazy. Just little tweaks here and there to make the item slightly better, the weapon slightly better in specific circumstances. Really, the only thing you have that has stats is the weapon, and you have a charm, which kind of gives you some extra health and stuff. Armor is purely cosmetic, does not have any stats tied to it whatsoever. With all the pieces. Hoping that the full release is going to add more types of armor. Right now, everyone more or less kind of looks the same if you're around the same level and you're the same class. I mean, your head will look different, you'll have different hairstyles, but pretty much everyone's just about wearing the same uniforms. So hopefully on the full release, they're going to add enough cosmetic pieces to make things interesting enough to be different. There is a story of this game. There are moments where as you level up, you're going to get cutscenes and cinematics, kind of progressing a story. It's fairly simple, about as good or as bad as any other 40k storyline. It's basically Dark Heresy, the video game. You're an acolyte, you're working for the Inquisition, you're going on missions, suicide missions, fighting chaos and evil. Nothing too special, but they do have cutscenes here to try and keep you motivated. I've played with friends and I've played with pubs and randoms, and it was perfectly fine. Let me just go back real quick. Those are weapon ratings I was talking about, which don't make a lot of sense to me. But yeah, here's the screen. So as you're playing along, they have these things called penances, which is just achievements. There are achievements in the game, and they're goofy stuff like, get 10 headshots in a row, use your special ability to kill 4 elites, different achievements, one for every class, and kind of general achievements for the game. And those will unlock some of these cosmetic things that you get. This is all cosmetic. There's no stats tied to any of this. And a lot of these things are tied in the achievements. I've seen some people complain that the achievements incentivize bad gameplay, which I think is kind of true. Because sometimes you have to do stupid things like, kill 20 enemies with 3 grenades, or, be by yourself and headshot some enemies. It's a little awkward, I get it. But some of these penances are not going to happen through routine gameplay. You're going to have to, specifically look up, okay, what do I need to unlock this chest item? See what the requirement is, and then just kind of, hunt for that requirement, which is going to lead to some awkward gameplay. It's not bad, but a minor complaint for the game. And those are the weapon ratings that, again, is not really clear. 85, okay, so if you find a shovel that's 100, that's just the one I equip. Nothing too special there. They've also added feats. Not really a big deal. You're getting them every 5 levels after 5. They're just, again, little tweaks, 10% damage here, 20% armor here, regenerate a little extra health here. They let you differentiate yourself a little bit. Not really. Most of them are passives. I haven't noticed any that are an ability. Each class has one main ability, but all of these are pretty much passives, and they're little tweaks here and there, making you a little more offensive, a little more melee, a little more range. It's okay. It's fine. I kind of wish they were more distinct. I would love to be able to swap my aura to something else. I'd love to change, be able to pick different grenades or get a different ability. That doesn't really seem to be, from what I've seen, what these things are. They're just passive abilities that kind of shift you a little bit one way or the other. It's okay. It's okay. But it's not bad. They did add a crafting system very recently, and to get the materials to, upgrade your weapon or change the stats or change the special abilities, which is shown here, you need these weird points and materials. These have 40k names. I forget what it calls it, like ceramide and whatever the heck this is. But it's pretty much you're just finding loot in boxes. So you're going to need to run around the map, maybe go outside where your teammates are, and open all these crates to find all these little like materials that are hanging around. And you don't get a lot. It's like 15 or 20. So you're going to need to run a few missions just to get the amount of materials that you need to upgrade and craft some of this stuff. It gets really expensive really fast. And you're going to need to, kind of get away from your team. I'm not sure if this is really the best way to do it, but that's how they decided to do it, I guess, to incentivize you to explore and kind of take some of those weird routes. It's okay, again, like I said, it's okay. I kind of wish you could get rewards. I mean, if you could get these materials from Grimoires or Returning Scriptures, I think that would be worth more than gold. Gold is not a big deal. Everything just spits out gold at you, even if you fail. These materials are actually tough to get. And Grimoires right now, they don't really have the reward to kind of justify that. Same thing with Endless Hordes, which makes the game more difficult. I never really saw a reason. It's not worth it to lose a mission on Endless Horde. You'll make more money just running a regular, easier mission than failing on an Endless Horde mission. And you can see kind of these weirdo bars. And ammo is different. Different guns will have different ammo. The numbers seem to change. It's not standardized across the board. So even another infantry autogun might have a little bit more ammo or a slightly bigger clip. I think there's a range in which these go in, but these numbers also change. Not really a giant deal in terms of weapons. You pretty much just have two weapons. You have your gun, you have your melee thing, and that's all you're upgrading to get you through. So they simplified things at the cost of some of the depth, and it doesn't fit quite as well as it did in Vermintide II. Vermintide II was a much better design game, I feel like, where everything really fit really well. Every system laid into every system perfectly. It's perfectly fine in this game, but if you've played a lot of Vermintide 2, it does feel like a step down. Now, the setting's really cool. The minions are really good, and I feel like Darktide 2 is going to be an amazing game. I feel like that's when this is going to be excellent and awesome. Right now, it's good. I'd give the game an 8, 8.5. It's worth it if you've played Vermintide 2. I still think it's fun. It feels different enough, using certainly the theme, if nothing else. But everyone having guns, everyone having melee weapons, does change the gameplay, and the feel of the classes are different, so it's a new experience. If you like 40K, absolutely get this game. I think this game is fantastic, especially if you're a 40K fan. If you like the Dark Heresy RPG, this is the closest thing we've ever gotten to a Dark Heresy RPG here. So it's really cool for that. You don't have to like 40K to like this game if you like Left 4 Dead and kind of these style of games. I think there's a lot of interesting things going on. I would say that this is better than Space Hulk Deathwing, which was the same, genre of game. It was just your Dark Angel Terminators fighting the Tyranids. This is better than that game. So if you liked Space Hulk Deathwing, this is an improvement. You have more options, the classes are more different, characters are certainly a lot faster, more variety of enemies, and the levels are good. I have no doubt we're going to get some DLC, probably going to add new classes. The Rattling Sniper seems to be subtly hinted in the game. We might get Sisters of Battle. There's tons of things they can add. We'll get more maps. So I think DLC is going to shore up this game. That's an 8. If the DLC is good, could probably bring it up to a 9. So it's a solid recommend. It is a fun game. I know a lot of people have had issues staying connected and crashing. I've had that happen when I've played with people in my party. They've crashed or they've disconnected, and they've had some issues or bad lag. I have not had those issues at all myself personally, but I have seen it in game. I have no idea why. I don't know, maybe I've just been lucky. I have a nice laptop. I'm running everything at max, but it's not some sort of like monster machine here. It's a few years old, so I don't know. Try out the game. if you pick it up on Steam, just make sure, run into a game real quick, see if you're having lagging or disconnecting issues. I do remember the same kind of thing happened when Vermintide came out. It was super, super laggy, lots of disconnecting, and a lot of crashing during the Vermintide beta. But by the time full release came out, that was pretty much completely resolved. So I'm expecting the same thing here for Darktide. I think they've switched to a new engine from Vermintide. Doesn't feel exactly the same, so I think this is a new engine. There's some different things going on. Probably that includes some of how the matchmaking works. I'm imagining some of the architecture of how this game has been set up is to accommodate DLC that is upcoming. So it's a little glitchier, buggier than Vermintide 2 has, but I don't know. I can't seem to specifically pin down why it's happening. It's like it's either this game is causing a lot of problems for you, or it's perfectly fine. There's really like no in between, or no rhyme or reason. Hopefully release will fix that. But it's a good game. If you have some friends, definitely pick it up. And I'll catch you guys in game. All right, later.